be online in a second. This is working and it's so exciting. There you go.
Yes.
We should be live now on LinkedIn and YouTube as well. So, welcome. Welcome, Kerry. It might be a little bit of delay between what we say and what appears, but that's absolutely fine. How are you today?
I'm great. As I said to you, I'm at the Women in Leadership Hertfordshire Chambers of Commerce event, which is, fitting, very fitting for today. So lots going on, and I'm glad that we're just, juggling as we do, just to make sure we get the message out there.
Absolutely. So we had a few technical issues, and that's why we're a bit, late on the live. But that doesn't really matter because we really wanted to have this conversation about women in sustainability, how we can increase our impact. Because when we caught up, Kerry and I, just a bit of background, had a lovely coffee together a few weeks ago for the first time, and we realized we had an enormous amount of things in common.
Mm.
One of them being really a lot of energy and a lot of purpose to change things and change things fast because we are impatient, right? But also we realize that we use, or part of our frameworks and the way we work with people, and I'm going to let Kerry tell you guys what she does in a minute, because if you are on my channel you might know, or my profile, what I do. Maybe you don't know Kerry. But part of this is also that we have frameworks that we help people with, and one of the elements in common is definitely communication. So Kerry, do you want to share what do you do? How do you make an impact then?
Okay, so I work in wellness and sustainability. So I'm a mindset coach and I'm also a sustainable business consultant. And ultimately, linking it back to the word of communication with my coaching, I have three core pillars. So you've got communication, consistency, and connection. And when you consistently communicate, you'll always be connected. And so those two subjects are a huge passion of mine. And when we spoke about it, the uh, shared passion of yours is communication. And ultimately, it's driving the green goals and these initiatives that we're working on to ensure that people are able to understand and digest sustainability, particularly relating to, jargon and vocabulary.
Yeah, and also one important aspect I think of your work is working with people that suffer from burnout, maybe also as part of the work they do to push sustainability out there, or with companies that need to, maybe achieve their profits, but, they really don't focus so much on well-being, for example, right? So that's part of it. And it's interesting to see how communication is part of your framework. So, because you said there's three pillars, but can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. So that's from my coaching aspect. And then, as you know, that's the scale up. And now the startup is Green Solutions, which is reduce, redesign, and restructure. But everything fundamentally does come back to wellness and communication. And as you quite rightly said, guiding leaders to prioritize their wellness, to have healthier, sustainable habits, to beat burnout. As you know, we're in a burnout crisis, and that's 108 billion annually that we are losing annually in the UK. That's an awful lot of money. If we reframe that, change those narratives, and utilize people like yourself, people like mine with our initiatives to drive these purposeful initiatives into organizations, communication, employee engagement is going to be much more purposeful. So it's switching the narrative on its head. We've got the solutions and we're here to provide them.
Absolutely. And tomorrow is International Women's Day, but I've seen lots of events popping up on my feed throughout the week. Obviously, we're doing this for that purpose as well. So, focusing a little more on women. First of all, I was thinking, do we still need to celebrate International Women's Day? Why do we have to? I know there is a Men's Day somewhere now on the calendar, sometimes, but do we still need to differentiate ourselves? Why do you think this is still worth celebrating, or at least thinking about?
The idea and the concept is absolutely purposeful. I'm definitely a collaborator. We have to have the um, partnerships with men, because when we have these diverse cultures, we have much more engagement. However, the theme this year is accelerate action, and that really pushes me forward to look at the reasons why interlinking sustainability with it being International Women's Day is absolutely a must, relating and to us communicating about it, because women are disproportionately, you know, at a disadvantage, if you like, globally, because of many different factors relating to the SDGs. You know, we've got decent work and economic growth. You know, when you've got transparent, sustainable communications, 30% of that is being able to attract top talent. But obviously, globally, there are, you know, countries where women aren't able to work. It's 2025.
Yeah,
Is this acceptable? Is
yeah.
that okay for women to not have the same rights as men? And equally, it should be on the other, the shoe on the other foot. Men should have the same rights as well. So absolutely, it's important to highlight the strengths of women, what we bring to the table, and when it's men's turn to shine, absolutely, let's definitely flip the switch.
I mean, I'm sure you've read the news in these days, which are a little bit frightening. And I try to always keep, like you do as well, you know, a positive outlook of what's going on in general in my life and in the world. However, you have to take into account that there are some people that obviously think differently. And I heard Elon Musk yesterday saying that the problem for Western society is that we got too much empathy, which is an interesting take and it's a very dangerous take, you know, beside any joke. But I think this is, in fact, empathy is the part of, and when we talk about women, we talk about also women way of thinking. It doesn't have to be that you are actually female. It's that you actually embody and you know, sort of embrace some characteristics and some ways of thinking that are more usually found more in women. Okay, empathy for me is fundamental. You cannot communicate properly, for example, without having empathy. You cannot possibly understand who you got in front of you if you don't stop and listen and try and feel like they feel, or at least understand how they feel. So something like that for me is incredibly frightening. And again, interesting timing in the International Women's Day week, hearing somebody is that powerful to say something like that for me is particularly frightening. I don't know what you think.
Communicating this type of leadership is extremely damaging. It's extremely damaging because ultimately, and I've heard it here today from many leaders, one being a sustainable director across from Ocado, her story was incredible that she, or is incredible. She ultimately spoke about empathy, that how there were lots of allies, male allies within her phases of her life and the reason why she's so successful now. It's leading with empathy that is creating this change. And it doesn't just come down to the fact it being a woman-based scenario or you know, masculine or feminine. Leading with intention and kindness ultimately gives employees, 75% of employees are more likely to engage with a leader, relating it back to sustainability, and be on board because that leader is actively communicating. Now, when you said about this communication from Elon Musk, it's incredible to think that you could have all the money in the world, but not 1 ounce of sense, because that is absolutely, you can't teach common sense. You
No,
actually
no.
can't. You can't teach common sense, but facts and the, you know, the stats we have in relation to a burnout crisis. So ultimately, it's $1 trillion globally.
Yeah.
So his thought process is potentially incorrect. Well, let's face facts. It's incorrect because a lot of the facts on eco anxiety is based on why people aren't at work. They don't know what to do, and I think the most important factor here is being able to reduce communication. If you're finding the world at the moment is completely bonkers, it is, but you can reduce what you listen to. You can
Yeah.
reduce how you receive that information. So in answer to your question, we don't have to listen to that. We don't have to listen to it. We can choose not to.
I completely agree. Part of my well-being, so I think since COVID, part of my well-being toolbox has been just choose and filter as much as possible of the news that come through. I mean, not to try and be biased, of course, but to really try and limit the amount of negativity that comes into my life. Because ultimately, as a coach, I also learned to focus on and teach other people as well, train other people on how to focus on their own circle of influence and circle of control. What can you actually control in your life? Or what can you actually influence that is beyond your control, and what do you do about everything else? Absolutely nothing. So what I can control is my thoughts, the way I behave, the news that I listen to, you know, any practice that I imply, you know, that I put in my life. But things like this are incredibly outside my control. I want to know now and then, I mean, practically, maybe once a week I have a look at what's happening, what people are saying, etc., just to keep in touch. But otherwise I try and stay away, because I know that has a massive influence on the way I feel when, you know, people like this powerful, say something that hurtful or, you know, potentially damaging, like you said. What do I do, you know? So that's my take, and I'm sure you have something similar, you know, that you tell your clients as well.
It's control the controllables.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
cannot control what's going on in the world. What we can do is accelerate action. We can create these drivers, these initiatives, communities, connections. There's so many of us that believe in green goals. There's more of us than there are of them. And I posted the other day about the analogy of, you know, um, the film, an animation of A Bug's Life. You know, you've got a small amount of these large crickets who are making so much noise, shouting as loud as they can. But then there's the colony of ants, and then they realize actually, but what we are talking about, how we are promoting communication, leadership styles, leading with intention, creating purposeful businesses that are going to thrive, realize actually what you're saying isn't how we want to rule the world, how we want to live in this world. We don't want our future generations being like this. And then they stand together and say, no, thank you. And that is happening. And we're in a huge pivotal point. And as scary as it is, how I would coach my clients and remind myself as well is that we can control the controllables. We will reduce our lifestyle of how much we receive with regards to what's going on in the world. We don't have to take that on board. What you can do is focus on your personal wellness as a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
A non-negotiable is looking out for your mental well-being and ensuring that you always prioritize yourself. And when it comes to being online, don't go down that rabbit hole. Set yourself a period of time, a time block it, and then make sure you come off, because otherwise you are just filling your mind with more information when there's far too much overwhelm as it is.
Absolutely. One issue that I see my clients struggling with, and I try and help them with that, is the fact that it's a mindset issue connected to what you just said. And is the fact that we feel sometimes powerless, and especially so women. We feel we don't have the power. I think you already, you know, you touched upon the fact that actually coming together like the ants is actually the solution. And I feel that, you know, this is what I say as well. But it's really trying and change that mindset that if you first of all, do not try and imitate men. So now focusing entirely on women, do not try and imitate men and the way they do things, because we have different set of generally speaking, of course, you know, like empathy and other ways of approaching things that might be a bit softer. So when we try and be too much like other people, we lose our authenticity, from, you know, from my point of view. But also really focus on what you believe in, because once you have that North Star, then it's easy to find the motivation day to day to get, say, for example, in a boardroom for a professional woman, and you know, speak up, because you are not necessarily speaking for yourself, you're speaking for your mission, which is much bigger than you. And I think when that happens, when you try and focus your mindset on what you really, really want to achieve in your life and for the planet or for people, whatever really lights you up, I think that's where you find your voice. And of course, for me, it's also about connecting with others and establishing that relationship, that rapport, so that you have that solid base upon to which to, create the communication, co-create the solutions, looking at the SDGs and try and achieve them. So it's really about
I,
changing mindset for me.
Absolutely. And speaking to someone today about a mindset and switching the narrative, it's it's habits. I talk about consistent daily healthy habits, and we're led to believe, and I found this information out today, funny enough, that I used to, talk about it taking 21 days to have a healthy habit. It actually is 63 from Dr. Caroline Cleave, I think it is, and I spoke to a woman about it this morning, and I said, I didn't realize that it takes a little bit longer for the neurons, the pathways to be able to develop, but you can. So when people say, I can't, you can. You just have to practice this every single day. And it's by taking these small steps every single day to remember that each day you will progress. Each day becomes easier. It's not easy. You and I both have pivoted in our lives and in our how we work. But bring it back to women in leadership. We have to stand in our authenticity. Talking about, and I won't go down on a deep dive on this, but there's masculinity, and feminine energies. Absolutely, being in your own energy is essential to being able to take on board, new information. And when it comes to sustainability, if you don't already work in it, and we both learn every single day, things change every single day. If you don't work within this or haven't found your purpose or your mission to understanding it, it can be overwhelming. It's almost like wading through treacle, like a wading through alphabet soup. So fundamentally, in answering the question that you said, it's an ikigai approach, a Japanese concept that you have to find your purpose.
Yeah.
And finding mine about 3 years ago is a game changer, absolute game changer, because I just knew I needed to do something. I needed to find a way of embedding change. And I did do that with the position I worked in as a sustainability champion in teaching. And that gave me that driver to push forward because I knew that there were more people like me, like yourself, who wanted to create change to have green solutions.
Exactly. So I love the Ikigai concept. It's something that I've been, talking about from actually since I started, Green Gorilla. And because I think it really hits the spot in terms of, okay, I know the world needs something and, many things, but I'm going to focus on this. And that's why, linking back to the SDGs, I know we only have a few years left of SDGs, but I think they're brilliant because they actually make sustainability practical in the sense that you can focus on 2 or 3 that you actually really believe in and go for it. So okay, the world needs that. Maybe they need more equality. Maybe the world needs obviously more lower carbon and greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, etc. Climate needs to sort of come out of a crisis and all of that. So you can focus on that. But then what do you love? What do you believe in? It's combining that and what you can actually do to help. It's just the perfect, soup combination of elements that really can drive
Yes.
it, because I feel women struggle because yeah, they are passionate and they want to change things, but sometimes we feel intimidated. So for example, I'm sure you had that in your life as well, because I did when I was younger, especially coming into like a room full of people, maybe they were more senior than me or I thought they knew more than me. It was so frightening, and then I would keep my mouth shut in case I was saying something stupid. But that for some people actually continues over time. So do you
Mhm.
have, I'm sure you come across maybe leaders that even have that problem. Do you have something that you tell people, because you were talking about building the habit, what can people do when they feel that they cannot speak because they're not enough or they're not senior enough or they're not enough in general?
I always remind myself of, I'm sure you have the same feelings. I get fearful every single day. I'm always fearful, but I, remind my clients and people and friends that a life lived in fear is a life half lived. And it's taking that approach and thinking, what is my purpose? What do I love? Why do I want to ask those questions? So I always remind clients that a roadmap for them looks different to somebody else. One size doesn't fit all. It's looking at where you're starting and your end destination. And that's okay if that it looks different to somebody else. It's okay to ask those stupid questions. They're not stupid questions. I mean, I always used to sit and think, but I really need to ask that question because I don't understand. And people sometimes have reverted or projected back to me from their own pain points. That is sometimes saying that is a stupid question. Why don't you understand that about sustainability? When we're all learning. Every single day is a learning day. It's a school day. Every day is looking at it rather than making mistakes. We all make them, or rather than failure, it's learning. So just breathe, stop, breathe, pause, and put your hand up, because somebody else might be thinking the same thing and be as fearful as you are. But it's only through that one ant in the colony who stood up and said, actually, there's a different way around this. So just be brave. Just be brave. And I know it's hard. As I said, I'm fearful every single day. But like you, I want to see change in the world. We will see change in the world because our future generations deserve it.
Absolutely. In terms of how to practically do that, I came across something like a little exercise that I've actually started to give to people, I mean, my clients to do. And it's from this little book. It's not my book. It's actually by Marcus Shailer, great sustainability advocate. It's called Do Present. And it's like a simple 3-column thing. And I'm going to say, because I think it's really good, it's like, okay, what do I stand for? Sometimes it's actually easier to think about what I hate. So, and obviously, the opposite would be true. So if you hate, for example, I don't know, litter in the street, then, what you stand for is to eliminate maybe plastic pollution or whatever kind of pollution or bad habits or whatever. So what do you stand for? Why this thing is good? And that's great because it connects to the community. It connects back to why this thing is generally good. Could be good for myself, but it could also be good for other people, the planet, etc. And then think about some lived examples of this. Why, this why effectively, what do you stand for in your life? When did you do that? When did you stand for that thing? Or when have you seen somebody that inspired you that stand for that? And I think that's quite powerful because that gives you stories that you can implement in your presentations, you can use when you talk to people to influence others. And I found this so powerful because often people are like, well, but I don't know what to say. I don't know, I haven't got a good story, or I'm not a storyteller. But actually, every single day we got through life. And when we, write down perhaps a few good examples, episodes, you were saying about the movie, for example, Bugs Alive. It's a movie, but for you, it sort of gave you that inspiration, that metaphor. It's really, really powerful. I understand immediately what you said, there. So, guys, ladies, whoever, try and think, about your life in terms of what stories showcase what you stand for and how can others get inspired through that. So that's, a little thing that I found that I thought was quite nice to share.
It's a wonderful share, and I need to read that because 3 is a magic number for me, and it's a manageable way of being able to you know focus in a day in a very noisy world. And you're quite right. It's looking at what can you do, and it's creating these new healthy habits. Do one. Do one a day, try one and try one a day. Even if it might mean, having a keep cup, implement that into your daily consistent habits. Or if it means, as you said, joining a community because you don't know where to start, and then you can then have these conversations, the communication about how you can set these new goals, and learning out how to understand how to wade through the alphabet soup of sustainability.
I love the alphabet for sustainability. I'm gonna use it again,
It's one of
Kerry. I
my
will
pro.
quite.
It's one of my programs. It is essentially as an intro. It's. Do you feel like you're wading through alphabet soup? We all
Fantastic.
do. We all
No,
do.
absolutely. Now, one thing that came to mind is this thing of the well-being, and then we're gonna try and keep this short and sweet because
Yes.
as a first experiment between the two of us, I think is brilliant. But one thing that you're saying about taking a nap, when I think is so important. Sometimes I feel silly to share with my audience, oh guys, you have to take care of yourself, you have to drink water, you have to eat properly, you have to sleep. It sounds patronizing, but actually we are, especially women, I would say, because we have so many roles in our lives. We might work, we might be mothers, we might be caring for our elderly parents or pets, etc. We are the ones who go out shopping and buy clothes for everybody, etc. But this tends to become a problem when you do not look after yourself. Like you said at the beginning, just look after yourself is number one priority. And that's because people might think like, what is health and well-being to do with communication? But actually, if you're not completely full, your energy battery is full, you cannot possibly give a good talk, or you cannot even influence others. You cannot give yourself the best possible um potential to actually change anything. So it's not selfish. It's not, you have to really start from you, and then and that, implement these little habits every day, and then you can start thinking about others.
It's a 360 holistic approach. And this is the way I explain it with my programs with Green Solutions. When we look at this as a change mechanism, a sustainability sphere, it is a holistic approach. To just look at any of this in one aspect or one dimension is never going to create the change. And breaking it down into small steps of personal wellness, your home management, and your professional development are key ways of being able to stay on task and feeling purposeful, because that way you are consistently having daily habits. I'm sorry if it's got noisy here, it's become lunchtime,
It's
but
okay, we're gonna break in a minute, but finish.
but
Yeah.
the reality of this is, as you quite rightly said, when it comes to being able to be an effective leader, to have male allyships working well together, having diversity in workforces, implementing sustainability, everything boils down to you. You are the first priority. And without looking after you, you are not going to be able to be that strong, sustainable leader. You're not going to be able to be an effective parent, partner. Even if you're 2% low in water, it's really difficult to concentrate. It happens to me. And this is unheard of. I struggle to talk. So if I'm 2% down, I'm I'm in a real pickle. So it's through, as I've shown and deliver and coach people, having consistent daily healthy habits, you will have a sustainable lifestyle. And it is a sustainable lifestyle, not a keyword, not a buzzword. It is a sustainable lifestyle.
I completely agree with what you're saying. It's amazing. Over the years, I've learned that the hard way, by
Yeah,
burning out pretty much to the
same.
bone at least a couple of times. And then I was like, you know what? No, this doesn't work. I cannot have the impact I want. I cannot reach my Ikigai, or, my North Star, whatever you want to call it, my mission, if I'm depleted, if I can't even lift my head from the pillow in the morning, and it just, if I feel that way, which is very strange for somebody like me who is incredibly positive all the time, annoyingly so sometimes. But you become another person. And then, of course, as women, we go through other changes. It's very difficult. We have to really, really focus on that. But anyway, I wanted to keep this quite short and sweet and touch
Yes.
upon, the things that we really, really care about. And I think we did that. Is there anything you want to say to close this chat? And then if there are any questions in the chat, we're going to go back and answer them.
The reality here is we're talking today about accelerating action. And accelerating action, you and I definitely are on a mission and a purpose to create sustainable change. And it's reminding ourselves that as women, it's well known and documented, and stats are that we juggle most of the plates. And you look sometimes and think, oh my goodness, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what plate to eat from first. However, it is from having these consistent daily habits that will help you to reduce and redesign and restructure your life. And together in our communities, we won't stop talking about this, because there are so many more of us and wonderful people who are creating male allyships alongside. And there are people that are advocates for having healthy workforces. And I'm excited for it. So I'm, rather than looking at it as a negative, I'm looking at celebrating every day, that each day we're going to make more progress to creating change together.
That's amazing. From my point of view, the only thing I wanted to say is that that changing mindset that comes from thinking, you know what, I am, my voice counts anyway. I'm going to say it. Like you said, being fearless, I'm going to say it. It's all
Mhm.
about as well leaning into that empathy, that really try and understand the other person, because thinking about it, we are all in it together. Even people that don't believe in all of the stuff that we believe in, we are in it together, because the consequences do not make a difference. So we've seen it with the fires in LA. Even the wealthiest people in the world that got affected. So it really doesn't look at people's wallets
Yeah,
or places,
doesn't
right?
care. Mm.
Exactly. So we need to establish that connection with people. We need to get onto what they care about and use that relationship that we build, that empathy, to communicate that message again in an empathic way, not in a forceful way, in a way that is authentic to, because it's the women's day is more authentic, I think, and more leaning on the feminine side. And I think that's a strength. It's just that we think it's a weakness, but actually it is a strength. So
I totally agree. I totally agree. Quickly wrap that up, and then I know you want to answer those questions, and then we must jump off. But it's meeting people where they are. It's
yeah,
meeting people where they are, understanding that everyone's got different learning styles. Everyone's, some people got DEI. It's really, really important to realize that just because you're communicating in your way doesn't have to be in a masculine way, and accepting that you can be feminine, you can be yourself, and know that being that emphatic, that kind leader are strengths.
perfect. We're going to close on that, Kerry. Thank you so much. And hopefully we will do another one soon on one of our loved themes, if you if you like. Have a
Thank you. It's been
wonderful
lovely to
day.
chat to you. Thank you so much. Lovely to chat to you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.